Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The NHS in Scotland is in dire straits. It is in a woeful situation, and this can all be laid at the feet of one man, and we know who that is. It's Humza Yousaf. After years of neglect and disinterested scorn, he abandoned the NHS to go chasing the leadership of the SNP, and he was rewarded for what he has done. He has left a state of devastation behind him and moves on to see what else he can fail at. Well, we're going to take a look. There's three stories that have come up, but we're not going to do all three in detail. We're just sort of skimming over them. But it will show the state of play with regards to what he has left. And it gives no hope for the future. It appears the NHS in Scotland is in such a bad state that it may never recover. It may need to be completely rebuilt. And that is going to be the legacy of Humza Yousaf. Let's look at this story, and it does not make for good reading. For heaven's sake, don't get ill. Here goes. So just to begin, we're going to give you this headline here from the Scottish Daily Mail, and it is Humza is being warned of a looming crisis as experts predict the worst case scenario, and patients now face a 7-year wait for NHS ops. Now, these aren't emergency operations, I'll grant you that. This isn't if you come in from accident emergency or anything like that. But if you are having an operation like that, your GP recommends you have this, or it could be minor operation, something like that you're recommended. A 7-year wait. Do you know that is that's got to be a crime against humanity? People could be forced to wait in pain for that length of time. It is the worst case scenario, it does say. But this crisis has been building for a long time, for many years, all of which he was the health secretary. He cannot run away from the fact that he is responsible for this. Now, that's just the headline there. We're going to have a look at another piece here. This is a leader piece in the Scotsman on Sunday. Let me just zoom that in a little bit. We can read it easier. So the cabinet titles were shuffled as Humza Yousaf appointed his ministerial team last week, and many which stood out was his successor, which is the poisoned chalice of the health brief. Michael Matheson becomes the cabinet secretary for NHS recovery. Well, this is a misnomer because the NHS in Scotland is unlikely ever to recover, as well as doing health and social care. The addition is telling. It's an open goal, of course, for opponents who could point out it needs recovered from Mr. Yousaf's time in charge. And there's no joke. He extended the trouble in the NHS. Waiting lengths doubled under his tenure. The waiting list, the waiting time for ambulances trebled under his tenure. The number of operations per head of population halved under his tenure. The NHS in Scotland is absolutely falling apart under his watch. It is awful. It is one of those things of which we say he fails at everything. But to fail at health is probably the worst thing that you can fail at, because that is people's lives. And if not actually their physical, actual life, it is their quality of life as well. Anyway, while the merits of a Minister for Independence could well be questioned, no one would doubt that the recovery of the NHS must be atop of the agenda every day. But for the NHS, it isn't even in the top 3, because they have other more important things to do than sort out the NHS in Scotland. There is, of course, to make sure that independence happens, that gender reform happens, and that you get 20p back when you bring a bottle back to a shop. These are what is important to the SNP. Health, way down the list, and you can tell that because of the years of neglect under Humza Yousaf. Mr. Matheson certainly has his work cut out. Major reform is necessary, but only possible once the firefighting stops. And the latest figures published on Mr. Yousaf's first day in Bute House showed fewer than 2/3 of recent attendances at the accident emergency units were seen in the 4-hour target time. Fewer than 2/3. Now, that means somewhere between a half and 2/3, doesn't it? So it's appallingly bad. Of the 25,160 attendances, 1,382 people waited longer than 12 hours in A&E, while 3,344 waited more than 8 hours. The target is 4. And a total of 9,342 waited longer than 4 hours. Away from hospitals, services are also stretched to the limit, while GPs warn of imminent closures. Dentistry is also in crisis. Now, of course, I don't want to get into broad strokes here, but only from sort of family I know, and they tend to be the older ones. Scottish teeth were never great. My father-in-law, he's from Greenock, and he said his 21st birthday, his family took him to the dentist, and they made him pull all his teeth out. And he got dentures at the age of 21. And he always joked that was the state of Scottish dentistry. And he's in his 70s now, he says, but he suspects that very little has changed. And he's not the only one I've heard. Other members of the family and that, they say, I had the teeth out, when I was young. It was a birthday present. I thought, are you kidding me? It's weird, even on the Irish side, that they do the same thing. They pull. And it was, it's just one of those things. But, if the dentistry is as bad now as it was then, it won't surprise me. But anyway, it says here, Scotland on Sunday today puts a spotlight on many of the issues in the wake of recent figures, which showed that 4 of Scotland's 14 NHS boards, I don't know why there's 14, I don't know, it's far too many, that of those 4 of them, no dental practices are taking on new patients, and indeed only 1 in 5 dental practices in Scotland anywhere is allowing new NHS patients to register. Like I say, 14 boards? No, don't need 14 boards in a population of 6 million. All right, I would suggest 1 for Glasgow, 1 for Edinburgh, maybe 1 for Aberdeen. The rest of Scotland, half a dozen should cover it, surely. Anyway, the British Dental Association recently revealed more than half the practices in Scotland have reduced NHS work since lockdown, with 83% planning on scaling this back further in the coming year. It will effectively become an entirely private medical treatment. Dentistry will become more or less entirely private. It's the way it's going to happen because, there's just too many people, not enough dentists, and the NHS aren't putting the resources in effectively. David McCall, chair of the BDA's Scottish Dental Practice Committee, previously said the majority of dentists have pared down their NHS work and many more are set to follow. It is an exodus that's going untracked by government, but it is the inevitable results of working to a broken system. And we're just coming to the end of that there. So you have this thing where there's going to be likely a 7-year wait for any kind of operation that's non-emergency. You've got people up and down the country not seeing dentists because dentistry is effectively dead. You've got this minister for NHS reform and renewal, but there's little he can do without resources. So, you're kind of wondering what you're going to do. So I just want to pass this on to the third and final sort of chapter on this, which is, let me shrink that. There we go. Kate Forbes says the NHS is under threat from the Greens and admits Holyrood friends are yet to forgive her. Well, this is more of a puff piece for Kate Forbes, but she does have a point to make. Kate Forbes has said she slates the Greens as anti-growth and a threat to NHS Scotland in a damning assessment of the state of Scottish politics. And she is not wrong. Well, they're certainly anti-growth because for the Greens, growth means more resources, means bad. The fact that poverty means more resources are used more inefficiently, and that's even worse. But they're very thick, the Greens. They don't get it. They don't understand that you need wealth to create efficiency. You need wealth. A wealthy nation is one that can switch to greener ways of disposing of things, of more efficient ways of utilising products, of utilising resources. But the Greens sort of say, "Oh no, if he's making money, he's bad," and that's what they are. They're pretty thick. But anyway, former Finance Minister Ms Forbes and failed First Minister Hopeful said that if her winning rival Humza Yousaf takes on board the Green Party's economic plan, then the NHS could end up being underfunded at a time when it needs more investment. It is already massively underfunded. The Green Party has long undervalued economic growth, while Ms Forbes argues that it is key to improving funding for vital services. Her comments joined fellow backbencher Fergus Ewing, who said bluntly that he didn't think the Greens should be in government. Now, we'll be doing a video on that shortly about Fergus Ewing and his, let's just say, assessment of what the Greens are. So do hit the, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, just so you don't miss that video when that comes out, probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours after this one. I shall probably do it next, but I must get on and do some other things as well. Busy day today, but that's just a tangent. Let me get back in. Ms Forbes lent on recent research that found the NHS is in need of a 63% spending boost in the next 50 years. And if you believe in a health service free at the point of need, you have to have the revenue to reinvest, she said. And bear in mind that economic growth is literally an excluded element of the Butte House Agreement. So there's clearly a different opinion on it. So what she's saying here is, in order to fund the NHS, which is massively underfunded, and it needs 63% she's estimating, but of course by the time you take inflation over the next couple of years, you're looking at a doubling of the budget in real terms over time, a reasonably short time at that. Just to stand still, it is horrendous, the problems. And one of the problems you have is Greens holding everything up, not wanting to expand, not wanting to grow the economy, which is where you get the tax base from to pay for the NHS. So Scotland, you're in a big hole. You are in a massive black hole of finance. And this is being caused mainly by the Greens and the Green policy, because these policies that they're insisting on in order to prop up this failing SNP government are ones that will not help the economy grow. Anyway, I shall round off here. I shall come up and finish the video. So there you are, all those years running the NHS, and what does he have to show for it? It's falling apart, it's massively underfunded, nobody's getting their teeth done, and if you want an operation, good luck. So what I'll say to you, Scotland, is this: please God, don't get ill, and if you do, go south of the border. It ain't much better, but it's a little bit better, but it ain't great. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It's down there, and now's the time. Ring that bell for notification about future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay well. Dear God, please don't get ill, and goodbye.